Okay, so today we're talking about equation of a circle. I am here with my period 3 class. Everyone say hi. Hi. Excellent. So when you have the equation of the circle, you are going to use a formula sheet because that gives it to you. And we're going to go over some more details. Other things that you need to know are this. When you divide by 2, after you group the x's, you're going to leave a space. Group the y's, leave a space. And then when we go down, we divide by 2. When we go back up, we square it. And you're going to see some examples of that coming up. Here are some main important things that you really need to know in the core of your being. The center of the circle will always have opposite signs than what the equation is. So if we move from the formula to the center or from the center to the formula, we need to make sure that we switch those signs. Other things to know is that the radius is always squared in the equation. So if we're moving from the formula to the radius, we actually have to take the square root. If we're moving from the radius to the formula, we are going to square it. That is one of the ways they're going to trick you. They will most likely give you a question and not square the radius. So it's testing, do you know it? That's a consistent question that we saw in the EOC. Next, if you are given the center of the circle and 1 point, you can still fill out the formula. All you're going to use is you're going to use the distance formula to find that length of the radius. And you're going to see an example today. If you're given the diameter, you have to discover what the center is. Remember, the diameter is just half of the circle. So half of a diameter, you're going to find the midpoint. And we're going to look at a question like that today. If you are given the radius, the center, and a point, you're going to use the distance formula to see if it matches up. If it's less than the radius, it's inside the circle. Equal, it's on. Greater, it's outside. And then below is the formula for equation of a tangent. So let's take a look at this picture. You should open up your papers. You're looking at EQ number 1. And we've got this yin-yang symbol right here. And we're trying to fill out how do these numbers match up. So here's letter A, points to this circle right here, this very, very large circle. In this very, very large circle, I can easily see that my center is 0. So because of that, I don't have to write anything here. I'm going to put a little 0 here and here to remind me. But technically speaking, it'd just be x squared plus y squared. Now, what you do need to do is discover what that radius is. And the way that you discover that radius, Angel, is you count how many spaces it is. So from 0, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that my radius is 4. But I told you that when you go from the radius to the equation, you need to square it. So we're not going to put 4 there. We're going to put 16. Circle B, I'll do in green. Circle B is pointing to this teeny circle all the way over here. If we look at this circle, we know that our x coordinate is 2 and our y coordinate is 0. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 2 here and I'm just going to put my little 0. Now remember that when we do these problems, we have to make sure we do the opposite sign. So because that point, that center is at positive 2, we're going to actually write down negative 2 in the formula because we switch the signs. Now, it's hard to tell maybe on the screen, but the radius for this right here is actually 0.5. It's just half. It's a teeny weeny circle. So we have the radius at 0.5. We would do 0.5 squared on a calculator, and I've done this a whole lot. That's going to be 0.25. Next, so now I'm looking at C. Circle C is my other small circle over here. So we know that the radius is still the same, so I can put in 0.25 because 0.5 times 0.5 is 0.25. This coordinate, though, is at negative 2, 0. So remember, I have to put the opposite in. So since that says negative 2, I'm going to actually be writing in positive 2. And I'm just going to put a little 0 there because truly you would just leave it as y squared. The next one, letter D, is this kind of like half circle-y thing right here. So when we look at that, we still have that same shared center. So I'm going to put positive 2 and a little baby 0. But we do have to find out what the radius is. So we're just going to count. From right here, I've got 1, 2 blocks down. So I know my radius is 2. Because that radius is 2, I'm just going to do 2 squared. So 2 squared is going to give me 4. And again, the reason why I do it is the formula says that it equals the radius squared. Our last question that we have on this right here is, oh, this half circle right here. It shares the same center as our green, and so we know it's positive 2, 0, so I'm going to have to write the opposite side. So negative 2, and then we've got our little 0. And then we know that the radius is 2, so we're going to have this be 4. All right, now this is a good example of a trick question because it gives us the standard form or the general form, and we have to transition it to the standard form, find the center, find the radius. So it already kind of helps us out. We need to group the x's and leave a space, and group the y's and leave a space. So I'm going to group my x's are already kind of grouped. Here come my y's. This is EQ number 2. And then this 23, they already put it on the other side for us. If they did not put it on the other side, like if all of that equaled 0, we'd have to subtract to move it over. So first thing, we group the y's, group the x's, leave spaces. Next, we're going to set it up. We set it up just by looking at our formula sheet. And the great news is when you take the test in my room, you are going to get your own formula sheet that you can write over as much as you want. It'll be on pink paper. All right, so when you go down, we divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is positive 3. When we do that, though, we have to square going up. So 3 squared is going to give me 9. But we want everything to be balanced. So for example, if I gave a student $10 and didn't give another student $10, it wouldn't be fair. If I gave one student bonus points but didn't give another student bonus points, it might not be considered fair. So if we put a 9 over here and we add $9, we're going to have to add $9 over here. This is one way they're going to trick you. They're probably going to give you a solution where you wouldn't have to add anything to this number. You will always be adding. Then I do my next one. Here's negative 4. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. So if I put positive 4 on that side, I put positive 4 on this side. When I add this all up, I heard it in the peanut gallery, 36 is our answer. Now, we would think we'd be done, but we're not done because it's asking for the center and the radius. When we do the center, we always need to switch the signs. So this was positive 3, so our center is actually negative 3. Here's our negative 2, and the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. The other thing I said is if we go from the formula to the radius, we always will be taking the square root. So the square root of 36 is technically positive or negative 6, but you can't have a negative radius, so our radius is just plain old positive 6. Okay, here is another example. I'm going to just show you the little hack way to do this problem. First of all, we're going to look at our x's. So I'm just going to put a box around here and here. We know that when we use the hack, we always take this number, this negative 2, and we know we always divide it by 2. So negative 2 divided by 2 would give me negative 1. Now, with that being negative 1, I know that my center, I don't even have to worry about it. So I know it's going to be negative 1. So I'm going to immediately eliminate number 3 and number 4. Because all I did was I took this number right here and I divided it by 2, and that allowed me to eliminate numbers. The next thing we're going to do is notice how everything now is the exact same except for the radii. That's the difference, that last number. So all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take this negative 3, move it to the other side. That gives me negative 3. But remember how when we divided by 2, we got negative 1? Well, to go back up, we square that. So that would be positive 1. So I'm going to add positive 1 here. And then when I have 6, if I was to take half of 6, that's going to give me positive 3, which they have for us. But when we square it, that's going to give me positive 9. So that means I have to also add positive 9 over here. So I'm going to erase this and show you that one more time because it's kind of tricky. Our main goal is to figure out what is the radius going to be. So the way that we find the radius is we just do half of the numbers and then square it. So I'm going to take this negative 2. I've got a negative 2x and I've got a positive 6y. So I'm going to take half of negative 2, which is negative 1. When I square it, negative 1 squared is going to give me positive 1. So when I moved this to the other side, here's my negative 3. Now I'm adding 1. That's my extra x. Then I do it for the same thing for my y. Half of 6, 6 divided by 2 is going to give me 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to put the positive 9 over here. When I add all these up, I get 7. So my answer is choice number 2. Next, which point is on the circle whose equation is, etc. So we know that this is centered at 0, 0. And we know by using a calculator that our radius is, second square root, 289, 17. Now, there's a hard way to do this and an easier way to do it. I'm going to show you the ERIC hack because that's what I like to do. Whenever you are given an equation and a point, first you figure out the center, which we did, 0, 0. Second, you're going to use distance formula. So I'm going to do negative 12. This is choice A. It's pretty much just going to be process of elimination. So I'm going to put negative 12 here, subtract 12 here. For my hack, we do change, change, change. So this becomes 12 squared plus 12 squared. That would give me 144 plus 144. You can also do this doing the distance formula. When we add that up, we get 288. So because we get 288, we know it can't be choice 1. Now, here is a trick. Because if the numbers were 12 and 12, it's not the possible answer, we know it also can't be choice 2. Because choice 2 is 7 and 10, which is less than 12. So that it can't be choice 2. It could be this one. So let's look at choice 3. We've got 0, 0 as our center. We've got negative 1 and negative 16. We're going to subtract. Change this sign, change this sign, change this sign. Now we can add. We've got 1 squared plus 16 squared. That's going to equal 1 plus 256, which is 257. So it cannot be choice 3. So we know that it's choice 4, but let me just model Y real quick. For choice 4, I've got my 0, 0. I've got my 8, negative 15. All I'm going to do is do 8 squared plus 15 squared. 8 squared is 64. 15 squared is 225. When I add that up, I get 289. So there you go. That's how it has to be because it matches 289 to 289. All right, now it says which equation represents the circle whose center is negative 5, 3 and passes through that point. Because it passes through that point, we know it's on the circle. So we can actually just use a distance formula to get the radius. So I've got negative 5, positive 3, negative 1, positive 3. And again, I'm just using my ERIC hack. So we put one on top of the other. Next step is we change the signs. This becomes positive, this becomes positive, this becomes negative. We add going down, negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4 squared. That's 16. Just making sure I'm doing it right. Yep. 3 minus 3 is 0. Add it up. That's going to give us 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So we know our radius is 4. So now we just set it up. X squared. Nope. I was rushing. So we're going to set it up by doing x, leave a space squared, plus y, leave a space squared, equals. So we do the opposite. So if our center is negative 5, positive 3, we're doing the opposite values. So our opposite values are going to be positive 5 and negative 3. Excellent. Our radius is 4, but we're not going to put a 4 here because the formula says we have to square the radius. So 4 squared equals 16. So 16 is going to be our number that goes there. Okay. The coordinates of the endpoints of the diameter are those numbers. What is the equation of the circle? This says diameter. So because it's a diameter, we have a couple things going on. First, we need to find the radius. And also we need to find the midpoint to get the center. So first, actually, let's find the center first. We have 2, 0, and we have 2, -8. Those are our points. So the midpoint formula, which you have to memorize, it's not on the formula sheet, is add the x, divide by 2, add the y, divide by 2. So I've got 2 plus 2, which is 4, divided by 2, which is 2. So I know my real center is going to be at positive 2. And now we're going to do the same thing for the y's. 0 plus -8 divided by 2. That's going to give you -8 divided by 2, which is going to give you -4. Now we need to determine the center, or we need to determine the radius. So I'm just going to take one of these points. Let's take, here's our center that we just discovered, 0, -4. This is our center. And then we're going to pick any point we want. I'd like to pick the ones with 0 in it because I think it's way easier. Okay, subtract the other point. Change each 3 signs. 2 plus -2 is 0. -4 plus 0 is -4. We square each thing and add it up. So we get 0 plus 16, which is 16. And to do the distance formula, we take that square root at the end, and it's got on the formula sheet, so you know our radius is 4. So now we have our radius and we have our point, so we can plug it into the equation. We set it up. X, leave a space, squared, plus y, leave a space, squared, and then equals. Our center is positive 2. The opposite of positive 2 is going to be -2. Our y coordinate is -4. The opposite of -4 is positive 4. And then we always have to square that radius. So 4 squared is 16. Now you might have noticed if you do the ERIC hack that whatever this number is that you before you take the square root is the number that goes there. Okay, this one I'm going to go a little bit faster because we already just did a diameter question. First, we're going to find the center or the midpoint. So I've got -2 here, plus 6 here, divided by 2. That's going to give me 4 divided by 2, which is 2. My y is 3 and 3. That's going to give me 6 over 2, or 3. So I know my center is 2, 3. I'm going to put that center up here and pick any of the points. I'm going to pick 6, 3 as my point. Using the ERIC hack, we know we subtract, and after we write the subtraction sign, we change, change, change. 2 plus -6 is -4. 3 plus -3 is 0. Add it up, 16. Take the square root of 16, and we get our radius is 4. Once we have the information, we can put it into our equation that we just pulled right from the formula sheet. You will always have x squared and y squared. One of the things that was so frustrating to me on your performance final is the number of people who put a number first, and I don't even know why they did that. You will always have x and then a squared and y and a squared. Don't take out x and y. Anyway, here positive 2, positive 3, so we're going to switch the signs. And then 4 squared, 16. All right, here we go. Write the equation of a circle centered at -2, -5 with the radius of 5. So we've done this a lot. We know we're going to switch our signs. We've got x plus 2 squared, y plus 5 squared, and then we know that that equals the radius squared. So 5 squared is 25. Brilliant. Now we're going to show our work algebraically to explain how we know. I don't know if this is, well, this might be, we can practice. All you're going to do is you're going to write your center, -2, -5. You're going to write the point that they give you. In this case, our first point was -4, -1. Then we do our distance formula. I'm doing the math hack. So we've got -2 plus 4 is 2, not 6. I rushed. 5 and 1, or -5 plus 1 is -4. Squared, squared, already put the square there. That's going to give us 4 plus 16, which equals 20. Here's a trick. Don't do all the extra work. Because 20 is less than 25, we know that it's in. So letter A, in. Here comes letter B. You guys have been doing great. Thanks for your patience. -2, -5. 1, -1. Put the negative sign. Change, change, change. -2 plus -1 is -3. Negative 5 plus negative 1 or positive 1 is negative 4. We get 9 plus 16, which is 25, which is the number we were shooting for. So we know that that is on. And most likely the last one's going to be outside, but let's just do it for kicks. We've got, I'll do it up here. Here's our center again. You always put the center first, just that so you don't forget to use it. Change, change, change. This is negative 2, negative 5. That's going to get you 4 plus 25, which is 29. So we know that that's outside. Okay, last one. Okay, write the equation of a line that is tangent to the circle at those values. Tangent, we know we're going to have to do the opposite reciprocal. So first thing we're going to do is slope. You find slope by doing y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Our y, our other point, is going to be the center of the circle, negative 2, negative 5. So all we're going to do is negative 5 minus negative 2 divided by negative 2 minus negative 6. These negatives in a row become positives. So we're left with negative 3 in the numerator and positive 4 in our denominator. So that's what the slope is of the radius slope. But because we want it to be perpendicular, you then have to take that, and in order for it to be perpendicular, we have to flip it and change the sign. So how that's negative 3/4, it's going to turn into positive 4/3. Next, you're going to write y equals mx plus b 2 times. I'm pretty sure this was on the performance final review now that I think about it, because it's feeling familiar. The first time you do it, you're going to take the point that they give you, and we're going to substitute it into the equation. So the y value is negative 2. Our slope is 4/3 that we just discovered. Our x value from the point that's on the tangent is negative 6, and then we have plus b. When we do the math, I get 4 times negative 6, which is negative 24, and negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. So now I'm left with negative 2 equals negative 8 plus b. Add 8 to both sides, and you get 6 for your b. So now you're going to go back to the first y equals mx plus b. Down here in this green box, a doodle-doo. The y stays the same. The slope is 4/3. The x stays the same. And now we add our 6. So that is it, lovies. Congratulations. You now have videos for every single one's on the test. Woohoo!